Good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Zoning Hearing Board, June 10th, 2024. Can we please all rise and say the national anthem? Well, the Pledge of Allegiance, excuse me. Before we get started, I would like to do some introductions of the board, please. To my left, I have Bob Patel. To his left, I have Nastasha Raisley. To her left, I have Diane Beret from the Township. To my right, I have Aaron Mackey. To his right, I have Chris Kilmer. To his right is Karen Browndorf. And to her right is Cliff Bidleymeyer. Oh, I'm sorry. Matt Takita from the Township is on Zoom this evening, and so is Ed Neubauer, both from the Township. Thank you. Okay, we're going to get started with petition number 1. Varel Patel, 201 Chilton Way, Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania, 19030, TMP number 13-014-048, zoned HR, requesting a dimensional variance to install pavers for 2 patios which are over the allowable impervious surface coverage, section 209-16.f and table 1A. Would you like to come to the microphone, please, and please say your name and spell it for our court reporter?
My name is Viral Patel, property owner of 201 Chilton Way, Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania. Viral, last name is Patel, Patel. I do.
Cliff?
ZHB1, application for zoning ordinance appeal, along with an accompanying statement in support thereof. ZHB2 will be the permit application denial letter from Falls Township dated May 13th, 2024. ZHB3 will be the impervious surface and building calculation sheet. ZHB4 will be 4 pages with 4 colored photographs, one of which shows the property was posted for tonight's meeting. ZHB5 are the neighbor and application notification letters as required by law. ZHB6 is proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier-Times, which confirms that this matter was published both on May 24th and May 31st, 2024 as required. With that, Madam Chairman, I am satisfied that the appropriate notices have been satisfied and this matter can proceed.
Thank you, Cliff. Mr. Patel?
Yeah, so we like to add a secondary patio. We already have one patio which our previous homeowner built it behind our house. As you can, like I brought in this picture. Like, you know, that's existed before 2009. Obviously, I bought that house in 2009. So we like to add one more patio right here on the secondary yard. Since our house floor surface area is only 700 square foot, and we have a lot of gatherings and parties and stuff like that. So that's not enough space for us. So obviously, that's what it goes over I think it's 371 square foot more than impervious surface plan. So I'm just asking a variance for that.
Okay. I'd like to open this up for board comment. Bob?
Mr. Patel, in the letter you have addressed here to the zoning hearing board, it says there is a foundation issue with the water. Could you elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so obviously I do have a basement down there. So as you can see, this is the picture. This is our house, and this is like a water and everything just goes down from there. Since this house was built in, I think it's 1984, so there was no sewer. I mean, I installed a pump in there, but obviously the seepage, and because it's a cinder block wall. So obviously, once we will put like a patio here, it's going to prevent like water and everything to goes down there.
So the
That's right.
grading there is kind of compressed down, so it's causing a ponding issue. You want to bring that grading up with the patio?
Yeah, exactly. So just like, dig it up, and obviously stone pavers, it's going to prevent everything from going down there.
Okay. Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Nastasha?
No questions.
Chris?
So, Mr. Patel, this existing patio, you removing that and putting it down? Is that what
Yes, exactly. So I'm actually removing that and obviously putting the better
Gonna put a new
pavers
patio down
and
the same
stuff like
place?
that. So previous homeowners, I guess, like he put just did it himself.
Okay.
Just the blocks of pavers that are available in the big home stores. So I'm putting a nice pavers down there, excavating that, making level and putting the new pavers down there.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Aaron?
So just to confirm, again, the type of pavers you're going to put down are actually impervious, because often pavers are not impervious, they actually let water through. But you're going to put down a new patio that is actually impervious?
Yes. The stone pavers that are available on the market, obviously, those but it's nice type, it's not like just the blocks.
But stone pavers with sand in between the gaps?
Yes. I mean, the stone pavers goes together, obviously. So I don't know if it gets water in, from the gap or not. Yeah.
As opposed to, say, if you said you were pouring a concrete slab would obviously be impervious.
No, so it's not a concrete slab,
Right.
obviously. It's just, I think the stone base or a crushed stone base, the compacted, and a sand underneath, on top of it, and then they just put the pavers.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
No problem.
My question to you is the pavers that you want to put on the side of your yard. If I'm looking at your sketch correctly, it looks like it's directly from the side of your house all the way to the fence?
Not always to the fence. From the side of the house to the fence is 30 feet.
Okay.
I'm leaving 3 feet ground open.
So this is 27 feet, not 30 feet?
27, correct.
So there's 3 feet difference between where these
Fence,
pavers are going to
yeah.
end and where your privacy fence begins?
Correct.
And it looks like you're bringing it all the way up until your driveway? I guess that's
Yes.
where the front of your fence is?
So from the fence all the way up to where the condenser unit, I can bring the condenser unit right here.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how that's going to stop water from going into your basement, because that's a really large area of pavers on the side yard that's going to be taking up quite a lot of space there.
So right now, obviously, everything is open. And, it is pretty bad backyard. It goes, the water and everything goes right from there.
Okay? So you're going to, like Bob said, you're going to make the grade so it's actually going to drain
Yeah, it
a
drains
different
right.
way. So
Right.
where is it going to drain to?
It will drain right by the fence.
In the back of
Like
your
this.
fence?
No, this is the side yard.
So you're moving the water from the side of your house to over by where your fence is?
Correct.
And you're on a corner property, correct?
Yes.
Is there a sidewalk beside you?
Yes.
Okay. That's all the questions that I have at this point. Do I have any public comment? I don't see any. Do I have anything from the township? Matt?
Nothing from the township.
Thank you, Matt. Do I have any other board comment or questions? I don't see any. Do I have a motion?
I will make a motion. I move that the application of Progroup Patel requesting a dimensional variance from section 209-16F in table 1A of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to install pavers for 2 patios which are over the allowable impervious surface coverage of the property located at 201 Chilton Way, Fairless Hills, PA 19030, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Aaron, can you please pull the board?
Yes. Nastasha?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
I'm a yes.
Yes?
And I'm a yes. Your petition has been granted. You'll be receiving something from the township. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Petition number 2, Advanced Auto Parts, 403 South Oxford Valley Road, Fairless Hills, Pennsylvania, 19030, TMP number 13-014-004, zoned SC, requesting dimensional variances for 2 facade signs which exceed the allowable 32 square foot each, section 209-45.Q, parentheses 5, parentheses B. Can you please come forward and state your name and spell it and get sworn in, please?
Yep, Steve Clark, Steveclark. I do.
Thank you. Cliff?
At this time, I'll mark some exhibits. We have ZHB1, application for zoning ordinance appeal along with accompanying statement and support. ZHB2 will permit the application denial letter from Falls Township dated May 17, 2024. ZHB3 will be 4 pages containing renderings for the proposed signs. ZHB4 will be 4 pages containing 4 colored photographs, one of which shows the property was posted for tonight's meeting. ZHB5 will be a certificate of service submitted by Steve Clark with a list of addresses. Now, I would just need to confirm with Mr. Clark that the properties listed all did receive copies of the letters that were dated May 31st, 2024.
I'm just checking that date.
Okay.
Yes.
ZHB 6 is proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times, which confirms that this matter and hearings were published both on May 24th and May 31st, 2024 as required. With that, Madam Chair, I'm satisfied with the appropriate notices have been satisfied and this matter can proceed.
Thank you, Cliff. Mr. Clark?
Yes. So it's for a new auto zone. It's taken over a standalone building in the shopping center. The variance we're seeking is for an increase on the sign size. Currently, it says a 32 square foot max on the sign that we applied for. What we're seeking for is it's 71 total square feet. It's smaller than what was up there before, and actually it's significantly smaller than by the general zoning for signage, which is 1.5 square feet per store frontage. The other part of it is, since it's a franchise location, they have standards. So one of the hardships is anything below this kind of size is going to increase cost. It's also hard to see where it sits. I have a colored photo that probably be best if you could pass around. You can see it's not crazy large.
Like these? Mr. Clark?
So it's standard along with what we normally do at all the advanced auto zones we've done in the tri-state. Other than that, it's kind of what we're looking for.
Thank you. I'm going to open this up for some board questions. Bob? Nastasha?
Nothing.
Chris?
I have nothing.
Aaron?
Nothing for me.
I actually don't have any questions at this time concerning this. Do I have any public comment or concerns from the public? I do not see anything. Do I have any concerns from the township? Matt?
Nothing from the township.
Thank you, Matt. Being that this is the case, do I have a motion for this petition?
I'll go ahead. I move that the application of Advanced Auto Parts requesting dimensional variances from section 209-45.Q5B of the Falls Town zoning ordinance be granted to allow 2 facade signs which exceed the allowable 32 square foot each at the property located at 403 South Oxford Valley Road, Fairless Hills, PA 19030, as depicted on the plans and in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Aaron, can you please pull the board?
Yep. Nastasha?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Chris?
Yes.
Nini?
And I'm a yes. Your petition has been granted. You'll
Thank you.
receive something from the township.
Thank you.
Petition number 3, Progroup Properties, LLC, which was continued from our May 14th, 24 meeting, 95 Lower Morrisville Road, Levittown, Pennsylvania, 19054. TMP number 13-032-090, zoned PIP, requesting the following dimensional variances for a truck rental business to move into the subject property. Section 209-28.g, parentheses 2, to allow parking to be located 5 feet from the front property line and 1 foot from the adjoining commercial property lines where parking is otherwise not allowed within the first 30 feet adjacent to any street line and 10 feet adjacent to any lot line. Section 209-42.f, parentheses 1, parentheses b, to allow parking to be located in the buffer where parking is otherwise not allowed in the buffer areas. Section 209-38.1.e, parentheses 1, to allow the proposed parking lot to encroach into the buffer where parking is otherwise not allowed in the 50-foot buffer area. Section 209-28.f, to allow an impervious surface coverage ratio of 71%, where 50% is the maximum otherwise allowed. And Section 209-34.e, to allow a proposed privacy fence to be located within the front yard.
Good evening, Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here tonight on behalf of the applicant.
Cliff?
As you had indicated, this matter is continued from May 14th as a zoning hearing board meeting. I'm going to mark exhibits that include ZHB 1, application for zoning ordinance appeal, along with accompanying statement of support. ZHB 2 will be 4 pages containing 4 colored photographs, one of which shows that the property was posted for tonight's meeting, and will be a site plan for the subject property. ZHB 3 will be a notification letter from the Falls Township to applicant's attorney giving notice of tonight's meeting. ZHB 4 will be applicant's continuance letter sent to the zoning hearing board on May 14, 2024, containing 5 colored photographs, one of which shows the property was posted for tonight's meeting. ZHB 5 will be the site plan for the property. ZHB 6 is a proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier-Times, which confirms that this matter was published both on May 24th and May 31st as required. And I've also marked for today's purposes A1, a certification of service provided by the applicant's attorney, indicating that the date and time for this meeting was sent to adjoining property owners. And based upon that, we would indicate this matter can proceed, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. McGrigan, do you have somebody you would like to get sworn in at this time?
I
Or would you
do.
like to start?
Good. I have 2 witnesses this evening,
Sure.
Larry
Can
Young
you
and
please
Russ
have them come up and
Protas.
state their name and get sworn in? Thank you.
Larry Young, Larry, Young.
Ruslan, R-U-S-L-A-N, the last name Protas, P-R-O-T-A-S, short Russ.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin, again here on behalf of the applicant. As a small housekeeping item at the outset, I did distribute 2 different materials to the board, one of which I'll represent is a aerial of the subject property, which I don't know, Mr. Bidley-Meyer, if you would like them marked individually or collectively, but that could be A2. And then I had 5 copies of a brochure associated with my client's business, PGE Rentals, which I also handed up to the board. So if it's the board's pleasure, we could mark them either collectively, all under A1, or each of those A2 and A3.
Probably be cleaner if we just did A1, 2, 3.
All right, that's fine. Very good. Thank you. My client, Ms. Protas, is here on behalf of the applicant, is the equitable owner of 95 Lower Morrisville Road in the township. It's depicted on both the aerial and the site plan, which is on the projector in front of the board this evening. The property is zoned in the PIP district. It is approximately 4 acres in size, and it is currently improved with an approximately 27,000 square foot structure. This application is about an owner-occupied purchase. My client is looking to move his business. It's currently located in two different areas, one of which is in New Jersey and the other one of which is on Veterans Highway in Bristol Township, to this location, which he's looking to purchase and bring a business to Falls Township. He's currently renting at the other facilities. When I see a notice for any application that relates to anything corresponding to truck parking or truck rentals, I have certain associations with that, and I want to take a minute, and we'll cover this more in testimony, to describe what this use is and what this use is not. My client's business, and you can see some of the materials that have been distributed, are highly specialized. The applicant is Progroup. The business that operates is PGE Rentals. So if you look at some of the visuals that we've distributed, you'll see the PGE moniker on the vehicles. They specialize with trucks which work on railroads. These are not trailers. Mr. Protas will detail with greater specificity the types of trucks, but they are actually adapted and be able to work and traverse the rail lines. This requires some disassembly of my client's fleet, but 99% of the work that's being proposed at this site will occur to the interior of the building, but there is some need for exterior laydown space as part of the application for storage. My client deals with a number of national and large local businesses as his clients. These range from SEPTA to Amtrak to Conrail to Norfolk Southern and to the New Jersey Transit Authority. There would be a variety of good jobs added to the area. We're projecting a little bit in excess of 30 skilled fabricators, welders, and the like. This is not a truck parking operation. If it's the board's pleasure, as part of an approval, we'd certainly condition that this remains an owner-occupied business. There's not going to be any leasing to third-party operators associated with the business at this location. As you can see with the vehicles that we've distributed, most of the vehicles that PGE has are what I would consider bucket trucks or flatbeds and the like. This is not a large trailer operation. This use necessitates almost all of our relief, the majority of which relates to the parking expansion which we're proposing on the site. We're not proposing a development of any additional structures as part of this operation. The site is a little unique. It is in a industrial area. As I stated, it is zoned PIP. The use is permitted in this district. There are businesses, as you can see in the aerial, that we've distributed, which are quite consistent with what we're proposing this evening. However, we're also mindful of the fact that even though this is in the industrial district or the PIP district, it is adjacent or across the street from some residential uses. If you look at Mr. Young's site plan, I don't have a pointer, but you'll see what I'm going to say to the southwest. There are two residential properties, and then across the street, Old Locust, there's a series of houses as well. So it's a bit of an oddity. It's odd in its shape too, but the location of an industrial property and the bordering of that industrial property from residential uses has created some unique challenges in terms of the parking expansion. The only area which is adjacent to the residential houses, which requires relief as part of our application, is for the 8 employee spaces which are in the buffer. So again, we can highlight this as part of Mr. Young's testimony, but we are maintaining the parking setbacks from the residential use, but there are 8 spaces that will just be for employee parking. They're 9 by 18, which are slightly within the 50-foot buffer, but we are maintaining the tree line as part of the application. There are no trucks, no work occurring, no laydown space in the area that we're encroaching in the buffer on the southwest portion of the property. The natural buffering will remain in that area, and we are proposing a privacy fence, which we'll get into too as part of the application, which we would submit as both for the benefit of my client as well as for the residential property owners. The rest of the relief that we're asking for is as follows. There is a variance that we're seeking, which has to do with parking facilities vis-a-vis property lines. It's really twofold on the site. If you look at the building and then you go to the rear, and I'm going to flip to this page. Maybe I can zoom in and be helpful to everybody. So right here is close to the rear property line, and you'll see it that says proposed stone laydown area. And then the other portion of the site here, there is parking that is already basically on the property boundary in this location that we would be expanding down a bit. So that again is partially an existing nonconformity, but we're adding a few more parking spaces in this area. And then I will highlight here, since I just referenced it, this is the 8 employee parking spaces, which we are proposing to build, which is slightly within, as you can see, this 50-foot buffer yard denotation. You will also note, even though this is not a color plan, you'll see that this is the natural tree line, and we are honoring the natural tree line as part of this application. We're not disturbing that any further than what you can see. The other relief relates to, there's 2 variances for parking within the buffer. They're really duplicative, but they're different zoning sections, so we listed them twice. And then there's an impervious surface variance. The stormwater, as you can see here, the notation, the proposed stormwater management, BMP, that would be an underground system that is being designed to capture the additional stormwater runoff, which would result from the expansion of the parking facilities on site, that will fully mitigate and capture any additional stormwater generated from this use. And then again, as I stated at the beginning, we are proposing a privacy fence. My client has no strong preference between 6 feet and 8 feet. I think technically the code allows 8 feet generally on industrial properties, but if 6 feet's the board's pleasure, that is fine. The reason for that, as you can imagine, is whenever you have a highly specialized industry and you look at the vehicles that are being sold, some of which are being, again, stored to the exterior of the property, you want to make sure that the equipment is adequately protected. And then again, I think there is a corresponding corollary benefit to the residential property owners. It adds another layer of shielding or buffering in addition to the natural vegetation which already exists. So that is the application. I think it's a good business. It's a business that we're excited to bring to Falls, and it's a business that I think is certainly appropriate in the PIP district, but we are mindful with the complexity that the bordering of the business brings to the residential property owners. The last note that I will make before I have Mr. Protas testify is the space that he is currently occupying in Bristol is directly adjacent to a whole series of residential homes. So he is used to occupying property and running his business that's industrial in nature adjacent to residential properties. He has experience doing that and is confident that he'll be able to do that at this location. So with that, I would like to offer Mr. Protas for testimony, and then I'll have Mr. Young summarize what we're proposing from an engineering standpoint. Thank you. All right. Good evening, Mr. Protas. Can you please state your name for the record again?
Ras Protas?
Right. And you are an owner of Progroup Properties, LLC, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
All right. And Progroup is under contract to purchase the subject property, 95 Lower Morrisville Road in the township, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And I've been referring to Progroup some as PGE. PGE stands for PGE Rentals, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. And that is your business, is that correct?
Part owner.
Okay. How long has PGE been in business for?
So we started in 2015 and really heavy into all the municipalities and or transits and the class 1s. It's a 2019.
Okay. And where is PGE currently located?
600 Veterans Highway in Bristol, PA, and the 876 North Lenola Road in Morristown, New Jersey, right next to Cherry Hill. 876 North Lenola Road, Morristown, New Jersey.
And you are fortunate that your business has been successful and you're currently outgrowing those locations, is that correct?
Yes, it is. We're growing 100% every year. after a year.
Okay. And you're looking to purchase property and bring your business as a business owner to Falls Township, is that correct?
I would love to. Just tired of driving between two locations. Yes, I can. Sorry about that.
Can you repeat that answer, Mr. Protas?
Yeah, I would love to purchase that property.
The property in, and I'll project it if you can't pick up on it, let me know. The property in Bristol on Veterans Highway, is that in close proximity to other residential properties?
That's correct. Right next to it.
And have you had any issues in Bristol Township operating your business directly adjacent to residential properties?
We never did.
Okay. Let's get into a little bit more specifics about what PGE does. I handed out material for the board to look at. Thank you. All right, so I don't get feedback, I'm going to stand over here if that works. Can you explain to the board what PGE is and who you deal with in terms of customers and what your business provides or would provide to Falls Township?
Sure. So we are leasing and the rental company. Most of our equipment is upfitted to fulfill all the needs for the railroads, and that's including the transits and the Class 1. Majority of our some of our clientele, it's Amtrak, Conrail, New Jersey Transit, SEPTA. So we have a contract with the SEPTA, that's a 2-year contract. We have a contract with the Amtrak, that's we providing the equipment, and we upfitting for them as well. New Jersey Transit, we are upfitters for the New Jersey Transit, and we have a contract in providing the vehicles. So majority of the vehicles, we building it in-house. And in-house, it means that we're receiving at the chassis, we're receiving at the unit, we're receiving at the gear, and we have to put it ourselves together. Because I'm sure you can see that it's a very niche business, and not a lot of people doing it at all. And we are fortunate enough to be successful in it, know what we're doing, and growing. So we're referencing it, and I handed out material that depicts the sort of trucks that we're referencing. But again, can you give a little bit more detail about the types of trucks that your company works on and would be present at this property? Sure. So that's a bucket trucks, because on the top of it, we're providing the vehicles for the transmission and distribution. That's a civil contractors like Car and Duff, Amtrak renting it as well, and Miller Brothers. That's specifically to work on the distribution, electrical wiring. So we're renting those as well. So it's going to be bucket trucks, diggers, grapples, rotary dumps. I mean, anything what we can. We even have a cement mixer on rail as well. So anything that we can put it on the tracks, we are putting it on the tracks.
Okay. But we're not talking about large trailers that would be stored on
Don't
the
have
property?
any.
No trailers? Okay. In terms of frequency of trips for trucks, because this is adjacent and across the street from residential uses, can you explain to the board how infrequent it really is that trucks of this nature come and go from the site?
Sure. So as far as the deliveries of the either materials and or product to the location, it's going to be between 1 to 2 per day, not more than that. Our vehicles leaving and coming back, it's not often, because majority of our equipment rented and or leased, and our utilization rate right now probably like around 75%. So it means that if my vehicle's coming back, we're doing a bad job on renting it.
Okay. Now, part of this application really relates to a laydown area. When we talk about a laydown area, if this is successful, your business comes to the township, you purchase the property, you go through the land development process, and 2 years from now, someone from the board comes out to the property, and they go into the property, and they go to the laydown area. What sorts of things are they going to see? Is it neatly organized piece of equipment? We're not talking about a junkyard where just parts are scattered everywhere.
No, we don't. It's going to be neatly organized. I mean, majority of the vehicles what we're receiving it and the chassis units, it's brand new equipment. It's not used equipment. Specifically on the transmission distribution, our cycle of the vehicle, it's between 3 to 5 years.
And on a rail, it's probably between 5 to 7. So you're probably not going to see a vehicle older than the 7 years, just because if we have it in our fleet, people will not rent it. So we have to keep our fleet very fresh.
Okay. The entirety of this site, again, if you're approved and you acquire the property, is going to be used solely in association with your business, correct? This is, all right, so it's not a sublease where someone's going to come and utilize a portion of the property for truck parking or trailer parking? Okay. You understand that what I stated at the beginning, that there are houses to what, again, I'm labeling the southwest corner. I don't know if that's geographically correct, but for the reference purposes on the plan, there's 2 houses there, and then there's properties across the street, and you're mindful of that and would operate your business in a way that's cognizant of the fact that there are homeowners in the immediate vicinity. Okay. We're asking for relief to have a security fence. What is that? What's the basis for that, and what do you envision that looking like?
I mean, just any fence so the people cannot see on the inside. Usually when you have brand new equipment sitting, and as you know, like theft nowadays, people cutting off converters and breaking into vehicles like on a regular basis. So I would like just to close it off, just so people not peeking in and seeing like vehicles that they, or stuff that they wanted to steal. Rather keep it away.
Okay. And you're okay if the board has a preference between 8 or 6 feet, whichever one works, would work for your business?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
All right. In addition to the fence, you can see on the site plan there is some natural vegetated buffer between your property and both of those properties, again, to the immediate southwest. You're planning on maintaining that and not disturbing that buffer area if you come in and purchase the property?
Yes.
Okay. How many employees and what type of employees, if you can describe, who you're looking to bring here or hire from the Falls Township area, type of jobs?
As of right now, I mean, we have 30. I'm not sure how many gonna move, because I'm probably gonna lose some people because we are working from New Jersey, and I do have guys who's working who lives in New Jersey, but majority of the people is specifically from either Bucks County and or Philadelphia. So majority gonna come in, and plus in the Veterans Highway, they already used to that distance, so it's not an issue. So it's the whole office staff as far as the sales, project managers, bookkeepers, and welders, fabricators, mechanics. So we do have a mechanic who's in staff, and we do have 2 mechanics who's mobile as well, specifically who's working on our equipment. So that's a majority of the people who's we're going to bring specifically to this location.
Okay. And then, as I summarized at the outset, this is, even though it's on the outskirts of it, it is within the planned industrial park there. You believe this business is consistent with the other businesses that are in this location?
Oh, for sure. I mean, our main client, it's Conrail. It's 0.8 miles away. They have a huge yard there, Amtrak there, New Jersey Transit there, Norfolk Southern, CSX. Like majority of my clientele, it's literally down the street on the same street. So they have a huge hub there, and yeah.
Okay. Is there any reason that you know of where you would believe that this use is going to be detrimental to the surrounding community or have a negative impact on the surrounding community?
No, I don't.
All right. I have nothing further for Mr. Protas at this point. I would be happy to open this up for questions, or I could offer Mr. Young to walk through the engineering and then open it up generally, whatever the board's pleasure is.
I think we can continue with your engineer
Okay.
statement.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks, Russ.
How you move this?
Got it.
Oh, okay. It's not the screen.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Young. Can you please state your name for the record?
Larry Young.
All right. And where are you employed?
I'm the president of Tri-State Engineers.
Okay. And do you have a license in civil engineering?
Yes.
All right.
And have you been recognized as an expert in front of this board before?
Many boards, I don't know if it, I think it was this board.
I'm
Recognize him
happy.
as an expert.
Okay,
Thank you.
very good, thank you. Your office prepared the plan, which is before the board for consideration this evening?
Yes,
All right. Can you just do a brief walkthrough of the existing site conditions?
sure.
Thank you.
As Mr. McGinnis said, this is an oddly shaped site. It's 4 acres. The minimum lot area is 5 acres. There's a 27,000 square foot building on the property, some parking spaces. There's parking spaces along the left side, actually in the front and the right side. What we're proposing on doing is extending the right side parking down a little further. And you'll make note, there's an existing above-ground basin right in the front yard there. It's an older basin, and what we're planning on doing is converting that to an underground basin and taking the water not only from the additional impervious, but the existing impervious that's there, obviously, because that basin will be retrofitted to an underground basin.
All right, so that will end up functioning as a bit of an improvement on the conditions because bringing it up to
Yes.
standards is part of the development.
Yes.
All right. And then as we stated, I just testified to the site composition. The property is on the outskirts of a planned industrial park, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, and it's adjacent to a few residential uses, even though it's zoned PIP, is that right?
Correct.
All right. Can you go through and toggle to the next page and show what we're proposing in contrast to the existing conditions?
Okay, so this is the proposed conditions. As I said, along the right-hand side or easterly property line, you'll see the darker spots. There's 12 of them that will add exactly in close proximity to the property line like the existing are. We're also adding a bank of parking at the rear of the residential properties. There's another bank there. You see that big square in the front yard? That's going to be occupied. That's where stone and piping will be proposed as an underground basin. And it will have a discharge out to the same exact pipe where the existing basin discharges. In the rear of the property, there's a stone laydown area for additional space, and there will be a retaining wall back there since the grade comes down onto this property very steeply, so almost to the back of the building. So by putting this laydown area in the backyard, will require a retaining wall back there.
Okay. So the site improvements are exclusively with respect to parking expansion and the facilitating the laydown area for some of Mr. Protas's equipment that he's testified to. Is that your understanding? Is
Yeah.
an accurate
Yes.
summary? All right. Let's highlight and sort of package the variances together then. I summarized at the outset the encroachment of the parking within the setbacks vis-a-vis property lines. And if you can highlight that and show, I guess we can start closer to the street line where we're extending some of the parking and just depict where that is. And
So the macadam area is going to be within 5 feet of the front property line, and that's where the fence will also be along the frontage. The other area that we encroach upon the buffer is at right where this pointer is. That's the other area where we're encroaching. And this is a non-conforming situation here where we're not increasing the non-conformity, we're just extending it down along that same line.
And to be clear, with respect to the parking on the western portion, the southwestern portion, we're not within the setback, but we are within the buffer area, and that's a unique condition to this site because unlike most properties in the planned industrial park, which naturally border other industrial uses, this site, in its uniqueness, borders residential uses, so some of the zoning standards that apply to this property wouldn't necessarily apply to other properties in the PIP district. Is that correct?
Correct. There wouldn't be a buffer.
Right. So, and there's still quite a distance between those spaces and the two homes that you can see on the plan. Is that right?
Yeah, there will be 30-foot of existing vegetation that is
Okay.
being maintained.
And we're, yeah, as you stated, we're keeping that vegetation. And then the other variance for disturbance within the buffer yard, as I summarized at the beginning, that's sort of duplicative in the sense that it's really just in two code sections, but it's denoting the same thing, correct?
Correct.
All right. And then we have the impervious surface variance, and you've already testified to it, but I'm going to reinforce it just because I know it's important. The stormwater facility that will be installed, you will work with Joe Jones's office and the Conservation District as part of the development process if we receive zoning approval, correct?
Yes, and we'll have to go through a MPDES permit
Okay.
also.
And as a result of that, with the improvements and the updated standards with the basin that would be installed underground here, we would be mitigating, capturing, and in fact improving some of the conditions on site from its present day condition. Is that correct?
Correct, just by the newer regulations.
Okay. And then the final variance that we're seeking, again, relates to the security fence that Mr. Protas has testified to with respect to his need to that, correct?
Correct.
All right. And nothing else is changing on site. And there's some minor encroachments on this property from the residential property owners, and we're agreeable for those to remain as well as part of this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you believe that this is the minimum relief necessary to facilitate this use at this property, Mr. Young?
Yes.
Is there any reason why you believe this use on this property would be detrimental to the surrounding community?
No.
Okay. I have nothing further for Mr. Young. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up for board comment. Bob?
No comments at this time, Lenny.
Nastasha?
I'm not sure if you answered it. Maybe I just didn't hear. How many jobs is this going to bring to the township?
30 plus.
Okay. And you said it's like some people live in Jersey and Philly. Are there going to be jobs available, openings for
That's
new
correct.
people? Okay. No more questions.
Thank you. Chris?
None at this time.
Aaron?
So I just had a question about the neighbors and just sort of what, you said a couple trucks coming in and out a day, 70-some% of your inventory is out there in the world doing stuff. But what is the, sort of day-to-day kind of noise? What kind of outside, you said most of the repairs would be happening inside of the building, but what sort of activity, if I'm in one of these backyards, what am I hearing going on during the day?
Welding, grinding, but it's going to
Okay.
be on the inside of the shop, which is insulated, so it's going to limit the noise for sure. We're going to work just during the normal business hours. We're not working in 2 or 3 shifts, working just as one shift only. As far as on outside, they just starting the vehicle, leaving it. We will perform some testing of the vehicle when we building it. It's going to be tested on the tracks, train tracks, just part of the FRA inspection, and that's kind of it.
I only have one, I apologize, I have one copy of this. I have one copy of this, but I can hand up if it would be helpful. It shows what happens really on the inside of the building. If the board would like to see that, it just depicts the interior operations. If you could pass that around.
That's a current as of right now.
So to expand upon the question, we had referenced that about 99% of the work that will be provided on the vehicles will be to the interior of the 27,000 square foot building.
Yeah. Yeah, so all the cutting, hydraulics, plumbing, electrical work, fabrication, it has to be on the inside.
Great, so again, a neighbor out in their backyard, they're gonna hear people getting in or out of their cars as they arrive to work, driving off, driving in, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Okay, got it, thank you. I don't have any other questions, thanks.
Thank you, Aaron. What are the normal business hours?
So the guys get in usually to work like around 7. I probably get in there like around 6:30. So, but I'm working mostly like majority of the time in office, and everybody start really working like around 8 o'clock, 7:45, 8.
And when do they end?
Huh?
When is the ending of it? I'm sorry, you said
End of it?
they're usually there like 6:30
And
in
the
the
hours
morning,
like
but
around
you start
5,
around
5:30,
7.
5:45.
5:35, okay.
Yeah. That's for people who's inside the shop. People who's working in office usually stay in like approximately 1 hour longer.
Okay. And you're saying that the building is basically insulated and a lot of the work's being done inside the building? It's not outside the building?
All of it.
The only thing outside would be units that have been completed that are waiting to be sold or leased or whatever,
Correct.
correct?
So if we're receiving it at delivery and it's going to be a chassis, the chassis going to just come in. If you don't have anything for it, it's just going to sit on the outside, and that's it. If the unit arriving, whoever's bringing it over, we're just going to load it, put it on the side, and that's it. When everything ready to be put together, we're just dragging it piece by piece on the inside of the building, putting it together.
What about deliveries to your site for the manufacturing of these components that you do? Do you have trucks coming in and out delivering things to you?
Yeah, between 1 to 2 per day. That's it.
Just 1 to 2 per day?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just concerned about the neighbors. I just
Understood.
want to make sure that we're very clear about all our, when you're operating and things like that, because I don't want anybody to feel like we're not asking these kind of questions of you. And you are going to take care of the stormwater management
That's
that this
correct.
impervious surface is going to possibly create, so that's taken care of. I think that's all the questions that I have at this point. Is there anything from the public? Would you like to please come to the microphone? I would like you to state your name and spell it and get sworn in, and your address, please.
Good evening. Thank you very much. My name is Paul Lobecker, Lobecker. I own the property 85 Old Locust, right next door. My major concern, actually, I've got multiple, but the major concern is stormwater. If you're familiar with the area, and let me, I'm 74 years old, lived here all my life. My 2 generations before have been here as well. 2 things. One is that the parking lot for the Pennsbury School District school buses is directly adjacent to this property. So you have approximately 100,000 square feet of parking lot and buildings just above it, literally above this property. So that we already have a stormwater issue right now. Comes down my neighbor's driveway, our driveway as well. Sometimes it gets into the basement. And also occasionally it'll flood at the intersection of Lower Morrisville and Old Locust. So now, I don't know, all respect to the engineer, is that I don't know if he's familiar with the type of soil this is. It's actually called Falsington soil. It is a very fine, and actually it's referred to by the county as muck. So it's not, you cannot have a septic system, you can't have a French drain, none of the, because it will not perk. So they're talking about taking what's existing, trying to put it underground, and then have a discharge. Well, being that it won't perk, it's not going to do any good as far as stormwater mitigation. The other issue I have is that you're going to put 8 parking spaces literally in my backyard. And they're going to come to work at 6:30 in the morning. I mean, it's like, and it's in the buffer zone. I mean, as I understand it, the buffer zone is designed to separate industrial from residential. So, those are the major issues. The other issue is that, you're going to be violating one of the policies as far as, encroachment onto parking too close to Lower Morrisville Road. So those are my main concerns. If you have any questions about any of that?
So you're saying that your property butts up right is going to be completely, like, your backyard is completely right next to where they're putting the parking spaces?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
vegetation,
If you,
yes, I understand that.
you see the 8 parking spots?
Yes, I do.
That's the backyard. And there'll be people coming in at 6:30 in the morning, like in my backyard.
But isn't there a bunch of trees and vegetation there?
There is trees there, correct.
Okay.
But the main concern is the stormwater, is that, we already get it from there, and they're turning around and doing, covering 71% of the property. In addition to that, is that behind the building, they're putting in stone, is that correct?
Putting in stone and pipe.
Okay. You put in stone, you put heavy equipment on it, you're going to compact the soil even more. So that's not going to be a permeable surface either. So now, you're just adding to the problem that we already have. So how many square foot is that area in the back?
Mr. Young, would you like to respond to that, please?
Sure. Like, I think what he is describing is, it's marginal soils out there. As far as this site, we can't correct the wrongdoings or the stormwater problem just by one site when it comes from many of the sites. But what we can do is, I didn't say we're going to infiltrate. We can hold it back so that there's a smaller flow that goes out of that system. It goes out now through a pipe.
Right.
So, and it's a big opening. You're going to see something totally different underground. And if we can't recharge, DEP has this alternate method that's called managed release concept, where your flow coming out for the smaller storms is through sometimes 1.5 to 2 inch opening, which is a lot less than that pipe coming out now. And which will make the system bigger, obviously, because we got to throttle it back that much.
Are you familiar
So-
with Falsington soil?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And would you explain what it is?
It's got a lot of silt to it.
Right.
And all the fines are clogged with the silt sediment. So,
So that's why it's not,
Yeah.
as far as trying to mitigate stormwater, I don't think you're going to be successful. And my concern is that if you're not successful, it's going to be too late.
well, we have to meet the township ordinances.
I understand that, but
And we
you-
have to meet the state requirements.
Even if they approve it, that doesn't mean that it's acceptable.
Well, if we follow their regulations, it is acceptable.
There's reality
at
and
that point.
regulations. We already.
So, sir, hang on though. It's we get to, so please address us.
Yes.
And then we can have some questions
Very
back
good.
to the engineer. Thank you.
Again, is that we already have a stormwater problem, and my feeling is that he's going to make it much worse than it is. Thank you very much.
Do I have any board comment regarding this? Do I have any other public comment regarding this?
I did actually just want to clarify one thing. So again, I appreciate so separating stormwater, important concern, but then also parking in your, in that buffer zone. So the vegetation is going to stay there. The privacy wall is also there, right? So there's
That's
a
correct.
privacy wall there. What were the considerations about other possible places to put employee parking? It seems like there's a lot of other landscape here to put some other parking spots. What was the rationale behind putting it there?
Well, we had to, because the area, the lot is oddly shaped, there's a restriction to get around that building on the west side or the left side of the plan. Doesn't give you much room to get around that building. So that was the least amount of relief that we could have somebody get to the back of the building at that point. We have to put an aisle in to get around the building. So that's why the parking was where it was.
It just seems like you also have a lot of, in the sort of southeastern part of this lot, there's a lot of just open space. Am I misreading
The
that?
southeastern part?
Well,
Well, there's going to
the
be a
main buildings-
laydown. There's got to be a laydown area for Mr. Protas to put his chassis and things like that out there.
Okay.
Would you mind if we took like 45 seconds, just
Sure.
a very brief recess to discuss that one variance? Would that be okay?
Sure.
Thank you. Upon consultation, we believe we can relocate the 8 spaces as part of the development process, which means we would be able to withdraw that variance and then have the spaces maybe more centralized or relocated as part of the development, and then we can honor the buffer adjacent to the residential uses.
Thank you.
So let's just be clear then. So there's sort of 5 variances that we're asking that are up. You would scratch number 3, the parking lot to encroach into the buffer.
Yeah, I think
And number
2,
2?
I think 2 and 3 are the same, is what I was sort of saying at the beginning. So I think 2 and 3, Larry, please confirm so I don't put my foot in my mouth here. But
Yep.
I think 2 and 3 both go away if we move those 8 spaces, which just means we have 1, 4, and 5. If you can confirm that.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So then that would mean, as a condition of approval, we would withdraw, we'd still put in the privacy fence there, so that's still happening on top of the buffer, but we'll withdraw the 8 spaces. There would be no parking adjacent or very close to Mr. Lobecker. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, his home.
Do I have any other board comment or questions? Do I have anything else from the public at this point? Anything from the township, Matt?
Nothing from the township.
Thank you. All right, do I have a motion for this petition?
I'll motion. I move that the application of Progroup Properties LLC requesting the following dimensional variances from the following sections of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted for a truck rental business to move into the subject property. Section 209-28.g, parentheses 2, to allow parking to be located 5 feet from the front property line and 1 foot from the adjoining commercial property line where parking is otherwise not allowed within the first 30 feet, adjacent to any street line and 10 feet adjacent to any lot line. The fourth one, section 209-28.f, to allow any impervious surface coverage ratio of 71%, where 50% is the maximum otherwise allowed. And section 209-34.e, to allow a proposed privacy fence to be located within the front yard at the property located at 95 Lower Morrisville Road, Levittown, PA 19054, as depicted on the plans in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Aaron, can you please pull the board?
Nastasha.
Yes.
Bob.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Chris?
Yes.
Laney?
I'm a yes. Your petition
very
has been
much.
granted. You'll be receiving something from the township. Thank you.
Thank you.
Petition number 4, 14-1 Steel Road, Morrisville LLC, which is also continued from May 14th, 2024 meeting. 14 North Steel Road, Morrisville, Pennsylvania, 19067, TMP number 13-047-155, and number 13-047-156, zoned HI, requesting dimensional variances for a partial lot consolidation and redevelopment of the property into proposed storage/warehousing. Lot number 1, section 209-29.g, to allow a maximum impervious surface coverage ratio of 60%, where 50% is the maximum otherwise allowed. Section 209-42, parentheses H, parentheses 22, parentheses B, parentheses 2, to allow 79 parking spaces where 112 are otherwise required. Lot number 2 section 209-29.h, to allow a front yard parking setback of 25 feet, where 30 feet is the minimum otherwise required. To allow a side yard parking setback of 4 feet, where 12 feet is the minimum otherwise required. Section 209-42, parentheses H, parentheses 22, parentheses B, parentheses 2, to allow 214 parking spaces where 545 are otherwise required.
Which one do you want? Not that one. We can go back. Start there. That's the right one?
Can we start to mark the exhibits, Mr. McGran? Cliff, can you please mark the
We ready?
exhibits while we're waiting?
Okay. As indicated previously, this matter was continued on the record at the May 14th, 2024 zoning hearing board meeting, where an extension was granted upon the request of the continuance. I'd like to mark some exhibits for today's purposes. First is ZHB1, application for zoning ordinance appeal along with accompanying statement in support. ZHB2 will be 4 pages containing 4 colored photographs, one of which shows the property was posted for tonight's meeting, and there will be a site plan of the subject property. ZHB3 will be a notification letter from Falls Township to applicant's attorney giving notice of tonight's meeting. ZHB4 will be applicant's continuance letter to the zoning hearing board dated May 14, 2024, which contained 5 colored photographs, one of which shows the property was posted for the meeting. ZHB5 will be a site plan for the property. ZHB6 is proof of publication in the Bucks County Courier Times, which confirms that this matter and hearing were published both on May 24th and May 31st, 2024 as required. We also have marked 2 exhibits that have been handed up by council. I have marked them respectfully as A1, which is the certification of service showing that the adjoining property owners were provided notice of the meeting for tonight at the Middletown Township Municipal Building, and A2, which is an aerial photograph, and I'll have them made as part of the record. At this time, Madam Chair, I'm satisfied that the appropriate notices have been satisfied and this matter can proceed.
Thank you, Cliff.
Thank you. Good evening, Mike McGinnis from Begley Carlin here on behalf of the applicant, 14 Steel Road LLC. I'm going to be referring to that as Earl or Earl Co. Because TJ Earl owns the site and has been operating at the site, so it's less wordy than 14 Steel Road LLC. So if I refer to it as Earl tonight, that's what we're referencing. The site at issue, multiple parcels, is approximately 37 acres. We are proposing the construction of 2 separate spec warehouse developments as is depicted on the Pickering Court plan that Mr. Havers prepared, which is before you for consideration. You will note that the larger of the two, which is labeled either parcel 2 or lot 2, is approximately 272,000 square feet. The smaller of the warehouse buildings is 56,000 square feet approximately, and we refer to that as the proposed lot 1. As you can see in what we've labeled as A2, there is presently, and I think for about the last 9 years, been a large exterior material operation on the site, an asphalt operation on the site, which would be eliminated in full as part of this development. The one item I would like to point out is the application looks like a lot of relief on its face, particularly with respect to parking. And I'm going to take a second at the beginning to explain that. If you haven't looked at how Falls Township treats parking for industrial uses, it bisects, it gives you two options basically as an applicant. You can either calculate your parking based on an employee count, or you can calculate your parking based upon square footage. So the reason, and we do a lot of spec industrial development in the township, the reason why you rarely see people come in front of this board asking for relief for parking is because for warehousing uses, the one space per 500 square feet it's not the industry standard. It's not even close to the industry standard. So what people do is they say, we're going to tether this to the employee count, which basically, I'm distilling this, but it's essentially one space or 1.25 spaces per employee. So the majority of warehouse uses have approximately, and Sean Durkin, who's with Roddy, is here and can testify to this, you normally have one space, one employee per 3,000 to 5,000 square feet of warehousing space, which on this site, just referencing this 272,000 square foot building, would be around 70 spaces. And if we were not conservative or transparent, we would not ask for parking relief because the likelihood that whomever ends up occupying these buildings does not comply with that standard, with 214 spaces shown for the big building, the 272,000 square foot building, or 79 spaces for the smaller one, is absurdly low. The extreme likelihood is, at the end of the day, once this is built and occupied, it will be fully compliant from a parking standpoint. But this is spec, and we want to be in front of you and say, we can't guarantee how many employees are going to be in either of the buildings. So we took the extraordinarily conservative approach and said we're asking for a variance because we do know the square footage of the buildings. So I just thought that was worth explaining. The likely scenario is we could even withdraw the parking variances tonight and meet that requirement. But since it's spec, we just thought it was prudent to ask for the relief. Because when you strip away the parking relief, I think what you have is a pretty straightforward application. When you get past parking, you have an impervious surface variance of 10% in the heavy industrial district. The board may recall we were here around this time last year, I think for Gillette, and there was a conversation about how the HI district performance standards changed. There was an ordinance that was passed a couple years ago which reduced all the performance standards in the HI district. The zoning district that governs where most of the warehousing is being constructed at the KTC and otherwise is the MPM district. So just to be illustrative, and I might be going too far in depth here, but I think it's useful to point this out. In the HI district, there's a cap of 50% impervious surface. In the MPM, where there's millions of square feet of spec warehousing being developed, that is tethered to your acreage. So, for example, for parcels less than 1 acre, you have the same 50% cap in the MPM district, which is geared towards warehousing, as you do in the heavy industrial district. When you go to 1 to 3 acres, you're allowed 60% impervious surface. When you go from 3 to 8 acres, you're allowed 70% impervious surface. And for parcels over 8 acres, you're allowed 80%. And again, that is geared for the extreme warehousing development that's occurring in the township. So, not to belabor the point, but the parcel the Lot 1, the smaller of the two parcels, and that will be approximately 6.33 acres, which we're proposing to create. That is where we're at the 60% impervious surface. So in a theoretical world where this was in the MPM district where the warehouses are being built, we would be allowed up to 70% impervious, but we're at 60 and we're in the HI district. So we're asking for relief that we think is certainly in keeping with the vast majority of the other properties on Steel Road and a stone's throw away from the development at the KTC. The only other variance that we're asking for is a minor variance relating to setbacks from the bulb of the cul-de-sac and then parking to where the rear property line is. And the reason we can't expand that, you can sort of see it in Mr. Haver's plan, I'm going to try to highlight it, is right here. There is a PICO utility easement that basically bisects the northwest corner of the lot. What they allow you to do, PICO normally, is you're allowed to have improvements in the form of parking. What you're not allowed to do is have improvements in the form of structures. So that pushes this site down to the southeast, which then puts the parking field for the 272,000 square foot structure and the associated parking a little bit closer to the property line, which is at the 56,000 square foot building. So that is the extent of the relief. Again, I think this would be, relatively speaking, a straightforward application, but for the parking oddity, I think it's I don't want to denigrate the current use. It's a valuable use, and Earl's a great business, but I think from the township's perspective, this business and the buildings that we would build and ratables and everything else that comes from that, I would suggest is certainly an improvement over the existing conditions on the site, and one that is, I think, still warranted from current market conditions. So that is my introduction. What I'd like to do is have Mr. Durkin testify, who really is the best person to talk about this because of his really unique knowledge as an industrial broker here. He's authorized to speak on Mr. Earl's behalf, and I do have that authorization if it's needed. And then I have Mr. Havers from Pickering and Court to just discuss the existing conditions and what we're proposing this evening. So thank you, and I'll have them both sworn in now if that works.
Sean Durkin, SEAN, DURKIN.
Mark Havers, M-A-R-K, H-A-V-E-R-S. I do.
I do.
All right. Thank you. Sean, you're up first. Can you please state your name for the record?
Sean Durkin.
All right. And what do you do, Mr. Durkin?
I'm an industrial and commercial real estate broker.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that for?
About 12 years.
All right. And who do you work for? Where are you employed?
I work for Roddy Industrial Realtors.
Okay. And you and Roddy Inc. are very familiar with the Lower Bucks and Falls Township industrial development scene. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And you've represented scores of industrial properties in this area. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. And you're authorized to speak on behalf of Mr. Earl tonight. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And TJ is the principal of 14 Steel Road LLC. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And he's owned the property for about 9 years. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And it's been used basically for asphalt in a manner that's depicted on the plan that, I guess, the aerial that I provided the board this evening. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. And we are proposing the construction of two separate structures, a 272,300 square foot warehouse, which we've labeled on parcel 2, and a proposed warehouse in the amount of 55,880 square feet, which we've labeled parcel 1. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And lot 1 will be just over 6 acres, and lot 2, at the end of the day, if this is approved and goes through the development process, will be a little over 31 acres. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Before we get into the parking, can you speak generally about the market in this region still for warehousing and why this was thought of as a good use for this site?
So the industrial market in this region has been strong Over the last several years, it's been extremely strong. As a region, we typically don't see the same highs and lows that other parts of the country do, just for the lack of industrial ground, but we're still seeing strong demand for warehouse distribution buildings in this area.
Okay. In parcel 2, we have 214 parking stalls in addition to trailer stalls on site. And for parking parcel 1, we have 79 spaces in addition to stalls. Is that an accurate summary?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And I summarized to the board sort of the unique way that Falls treats the parking requirements, where you can sort of elect into either the square footage of the building or the number of employees. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay. And we asked for relief for parking because of the fact that this is a spec development, so we do not have a defined number of employees, and therefore we modeled this after the square footage of the buildings. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. I made a representation to the board. You are certainly more adept and qualified to speak to this than I am. Can you explain to the board, based on your experience, the parking that is generally required and/or desired as part of a warehouse use?
For most typical average warehouse distribution operations, the parking count for the warehouse employees will see anywhere between 3,000 and 5,000 square feet. It'll be one employee for every 3,000 to 5,000. The office requirements are pretty minimal in warehouse buildings today. You'll see a couple thousand square feet for the large building and probably significantly less than that for the small spec building. So the office count may be one parking per 400 to 500 square feet in an office, but the offices are typically no more than a few thousand square feet, even on the large 272,000 square foot building.
All right. So at the end of the day, based on what your projection is for the end user at both of these sites, the reality is we're probably going to be significantly overparked at both of these properties. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement.
Okay. And then adding additional parking just eats into some of the pervious surface that we're trying to keep and maintain. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Do you have any concern about your ability to find an end user and to turn this into a productive property in the township?
No, I have no concern with that. I get paid by commission, so I'm going to bend over backwards to make that deal happen.
All right. And in fact, from a parking standpoint, an end user is not going to come to the property if they don't believe there's adequate parking, correct?
Correct.
All right. You know the area well, as you've testified to. Do you believe that this use is consistent with the other uses on Steel Road and the uses that are occurring down the street at the KTC?
Yes, this is in line with all the new development that's happening in the area in general.
And do you believe this is an improvement over the existing conditions in the site from the township's perspective?
Yes.
Okay. I have nothing further for Mr. Durkin. I would, again, similar to the last application, suggest offering Mr. Havers for testimony as well and then opening it up for questions. Thank you. All right. Good evening, Mr. Havers. Can you please state your name for the record?
Mark Havers,
Okay. And where are you employed, Mr. Havers?
Pickering Courts in Somerson.
Okay. And what licenses do you hold?
I'm a professional engineer in Pennsylvania and several surrounding states.
Okay. And have you been recognized as an expert in a number of zoning hearing boards throughout Lower Bucks County?
Yes, I have.
All right. I would like to submit Mr. Havers as an expert. Thank you. Did your office prepare the plans which are before the board for consideration this evening?
Yes.
Okay. Can you go through briefly the existing conditions, which I think is on a different aerial, before we pivot into what's proposed? Yep.
The existing conditions, as was stated, is it's a working asphalt plant with large stockpiles of aggregate, a small maintenance facility, a small lab, and some scales and travelways and equipment yard, essentially.
Okay. And is there a utility easement located on this property?
There's several. Let's see, I do have that. There's several in the rear. Approximately the yellow line, I think 100 or so feet south, I'll call it, of the yellow line. There's 2 PICO easements and a rail easement.
Okay. And that has the effect of otherwise constraining the use that would be permitted
Yes,
on
it
this?
significantly narrows the property, pushes everything forward.
Okay. All right, can you toggle back to the plan which you just had up and then do a brief overview of what we're proposing this evening?
As was mentioned, currently there's 4 lots, possibly 1 parcel. We're planning on creating 2 separate parcels, one for the 56 plus or minus 1,000 square foot building, one for the 272,000 square foot building. The larger lot, as we're calling parcel 2, has, as was mentioned, let me see, 214 spaces. There's 73 loading docks, loading spaces, and 63 spaces for trailer storage. The smaller lot has 79 parking spaces and 13 loading areas. We'd be providing stormwater management in both an above-ground and below-ground stormwater facilities. The testing has started out there for some infiltration testing. The soils are very good, so we anticipate significant controls.
Okay. In terms of the parking relief, Mr. Durkin just testified to it, but we asked for the relief just to affirm this based upon the fact that we were building spec, correct?
Yes.
And you've been a design engineer for a number of industrial properties. Do you believe that the parking depicted on this plan is appropriate for the nature of the buildings that we're proposing?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Impervious surface, the relief is just for one of the 2 lots, is that right?
That's correct. Overall, the combined parcels, it's 46% combined as 1 parcel.
All right, so if this was being developed as one property, we wouldn't need the impervious surface.
That's correct.
But we need the impervious surface for the smaller lot.
That is correct.
And then as I stated, in other districts like the NPM, the impervious surface would be permitted, correct?
It would be, yes.
All right. And then your stormwater design, as you just alluded to, is going to control, capture, and mitigate the additional stormwater runoff that would result from the construction. Is that correct?
Yes, it will. Yes,
All right.
correct.
And you are going to work with Mr. Jones's office as well as the Conservation District as part of this development if it's approved this evening?
Yes.
Okay. Parking setback, can you just briefly show the board why that is? And then I think that also relates to the nature of the buildings being pushed sort of to the southeast, is that right?
That's correct. The one area is at the cul-de-sac bulb. There's a 30-foot setback. Part of the spaces are 25. It's really due to the nature of the bulb. The second area is between the 2 property lines. The rear parking lot of the smaller building is, I think, 4 feet from the side property line. It's actually a side property line there of the larger building. Those are the 2 areas where we're encroaching into setbacks.
All right, but we're not encroaching in any setbacks from any adjacent properties that are not otherwise controlled by this entity, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And in all other respects, in terms of building coverage, setbacks and the like, this is conforming and the use is conforming with the underlying zoning district, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. Do you have any reason to believe that what we're proposing will be detrimental to the township or the surrounding businesses?
No, I do not.
And you believe that this is consistent with the other uses in this area?
I do.
Okay. I have nothing further for Mr. Havers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to open this up for board comment. Bob?
No questions at the time.
Nastasha?
Is it bringing jobs?
We don't know how many because it's spec, but as Mr. Durkin testified to, you're probably going to get about 70 to 75 on the per shift in the larger building, a little less than that in the smaller building. But this development, in addition to the ratables as this gets built, will certainly add over 100 jobs once it's constructed. And we will, of course, I'm confident in saying, be mindful, obviously, of wanting to hire people who are in need locally of good employment.
That's it for me.
Chris?
No, none at the time.
Aaron?
My question is just about Lot 1, excuse me, the 60% ratio. And just looking at Lot 1 there, it looks like between the warehouse and the parking, that seems like a almost 80% or 90%. Is the parking not impervious? Or am I?
It is. The lot actually goes to the, I guess, plan right. That's all green space over there. There's some wetland areas there, or actually it's waters. And it looks deceiving to me. We double checked it.
And it
We
looks
double
a
checked
lot
it.
more than 60%.
It does look that way, and actually the larger lot looks much less, but I double
Right.
checked the numbers and it is what it
I mean,
is.
when you said everything together was 46%, that jives, I think. But I just
Yeah,
wanted to check that somehow the 60% was not, okay. So all that parking is impervious?
Yes.
It's not some,
Correct. It's all counted as impervious, yes.
okay, all right.
I don't have any questions at this time. Does I have anything from the public? I don't see anybody. Anything from the township, Matt?
Nothing from the township.
Thank you, Matt. Do I have a motion?
I will make that motion. I move that the application of 14-1 Steel Road, Marsville LLC, requesting dimension variances from the following sections of the Falls Township zoning ordinance be granted to allow a partial lot consolidation and redevelopment of the property into proposed storage/warehousing. Lot 1, Section 209-29G, and Section 209-42H, 22B2. Lot number 2, Section 209-29H, and Section 209-42H, 22B2, at the property located at 14 North Steel Road, Marsville, PA, 19067, as depicted on the plans in accordance with the testimony presented to the zoning hearing board.
Thank you, Bob. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Aaron, can you please pull the board?
Nastasha?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes.
I'm a yes?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Your petition has been granted. You'll be receiving something from the township. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.